What's up, everybody? Welcome back to part 3 of my Amanda Knox Waiting to Be Heard book review. You can pick this book up on Amazon. I believe it's on audio as well. And everything Amanda Knox is linked in the description of this video. Her Twitter, her Instagram. She is a great Twitter follow, as well as a link to her Patreon account is in the description as well. And I highly recommend you subscribing to that Patreon account. It is fantastic. Supporting Amanda Knox after everything she has been through is just a great thing to do, in my opinion. Now, we're going to start out with part 3 of the book review here. November 4th, 2007. The police were asking for a list of every man that was inside the home. Amanda talked about how the police bugged their cell phones and how the rooms at the police station where they were questioned were also bugged. Even when they let her meet with her boyfriend, the rooms they were in were bugged, clearly trying to set them up. Amanda talks about how the police brought her and her roommates back to the house to check to see if anything was missing. Amanda states she didn't notice anything was gone. If Amanda had just called an attorney or hired an attorney or gotten an attorney early on, she would have not spent one day in jail. Her attorney would have been there from day one of questioning and not let any of the things that happened to Amanda early on happen to her. If she had just contacted the embassy, if she had taken advice from that family member, man, things would have turned out very, very differently for Amanda Knox. She moves on to November 5th, 2007, talks about how one of the officers slapped her multiple times and told her to stop lying. In my opinion, they were just trying to break Amanda, a young girl far from home, at the time could barely speak the language, no family around yet, and they're doing everything they can to get the answers they want. People think this doesn't happen. Trust me, it happens all of the time. You can look this up and see how much this unfortunately does happen, not just in Italy, not just in the United States, but it happens all over the world. Look at how many wrongfully convicted people there are out there. It's just bonkers. In the United States alone, look at how many wrongfully convicted people there are. So this goes on everywhere. If the police want you, they will get you, whether you're guilty or not. Amanda talks about how her boyfriend was called at around 9 p.m. to come back in for questioning. She went with him to the station. While waiting for him, someone begins to ask her questions. Then it was decided that these questions should be on record, so they brought her into another room and began to hammer her with questions, all in Italian. Now remember, at this time, Amanda did not speak the language fluently, and the interpreter, the Italian to English interpreter had not shown up yet. Then she was told that Raphael had told police that she left his place during the night in question, and now she had lost her alibi. She was absolutely shocked. But I mean, who's to say that they didn't tell him that she said the exact same thing? In my opinion, they were just allegedly trying to pit them against each other to try and again to get the narrative they wanted. I have no doubt in my mind, at this point in time, the police went into his interrogation room and told him that Amanda Knox had said that he left the room, or that Amanda Knox changed her story in some way that incriminated him. There's no doubt in my mind that that happened. So they were doing the same thing to Amanda, telling her that he changed his story to incriminate her, trying to get her to break. Amanda talks about the text message that she sent Patrick, which said, "See you later," which to them meant you had a plan to meet up with him that same night. To them, that meant 100% they scheduled a meeting to meet up later that night. That's not what that means at all. I don't know what that means in Italian, but when you text someone or tell someone, "See you later," that just means, hey, see you later, see you tomorrow, next week, next month, or next year. You're not setting up plans by any means to do anything ever. It's just a polite way to end a conversation. Amanda talks about how she was slapped again, and another cop said she was going to go to jail for 30 years if she didn't help them. Help them? by telling them what they wanted to hear. If she didn't tell police what they wanted to hear, they were going to put her in jail for 30 years. Amanda talks about how she broke. And it's so easy for me or you to say, oh, I would be strong in that situation. That's such a ridiculous statement for people to say. You have absolutely no idea how you are going to react in that situation until you are in that situation. It would be hard enough to be in that situation in your own country when you speak the own language around family, friends, and loved ones, but you're in a country where you barely speak the language, thousands of miles away from family, friends, and loved ones. You're a young girl in a room getting slapped in the back of the head multiple times. It's so easy to see how that would break somebody. I mean, I would love to be able to say, I would sit there strong and tell them to go F themselves or whatever. But I'd probably do whatever I had to do to get myself out of that situation. Anybody would. For people to sit there and say that she should have handled it differently, she was acting weird, you don't know how you would act either. And for you to say, I absolutely know how I would act in that situation, you're just lying to yourself. That's all it is. Amanda talked about how at 1:45 a.m. they had her sign a statement that was written in all Italian that said what she had just made up to police, naming Patrick as the killer. This is the story the police chose to believe. This is the story that they wanted. They didn't want the truth that Amanda had already been telling them. They had a narrative that they wanted, and they finally broke Amanda to get her to give them the narrative that they wanted to hear, and that's the one they chose to believe. That's the one they wrote up, and that's the one they had the written statement about signed by Amanda Knox. And remember, she's doing this all without a lawyer, and she still has not been read her legal rights. Not, like I said before, and like Amanda said earlier before, if she had a lawyer from the beginning of this, none of this would have ever happened. None of this would have ever even been brought up in the interrogation room if Amanda had a lawyer. When she did ask for a lawyer, she was told she didn't need one. It would only make things worse. Worse as in they wouldn't get the story that they wanted. It would have been worse and more difficult for them to break Amanda with a lawyer present. That's why they didn't want Amanda Knox to have a lawyer. Even in Amanda Knox's false statement that was clearly coerced, the theory doesn't make sense. We're to believe that she met up with Patrick at a basketball court, then went back to her place, and she stood in the kitchen while Patrick killed Meredith. Why? What is his motive? What is her motive for letting him do this to her? They came up with, like, they were fighting about money or something, but that's a reason to go kill somebody like that? I don't think so. This narrative that the police wanted was absolutely ridiculous. None of it makes any sense. But police chose to believe this wackadoo theory, and it literally makes no sense. Oh, and at one point during all of this, they took her sneakers. She moves on to November 6, 2007, which was day 5. Amanda states she signed another statement at 5:45 a.m., again, without a lawyer. Amanda tried to tell police that she wasn't sure what she told them was correct. But they told her, of course, it's fine. The memories will come back to you. The memories they're trying to plant in her mind that didn't actually happen. They're telling her, of course, they'll come back to you. They had gotten the story they wanted, and they did not want that to change. Now, she tried to tell police many times what she said wasn't true, but it was always met with the same response. She states her phone rang, but she told she wasn't allowed to answer it because it was now evidence, even though it was just laying there on the table. Amanda states she was told she had to be taken into custody just for a few days. It was for bureaucratic reasons, even though they told her they could protect her if she cooperated with them. But that was just the police lying to her, trying to get her to tell them what they wanted to hear. And unfortunately, it worked. Amanda talks about how she felt if she could write down in English what she was trying to tell them about Patrick not being true, they might understand. So she did. She wrote 4 pages, and on page 130, starting on page 130 of her book, she prints the letter that she wrote out in English. I definitely recommend picking this book up. There's gems in it like that. So page 130, go check it out. Give it a read. And as soon as she handed the letter over, she was arrested. She had her rights finally read to her in Italian. Amanda Knox would spend the next 1,427 nights in prison for a crime she did not commit. It's just absolutely crazy that this happened. It's just bonkers. Pick up Amanda's book. Follow her on Twitter, Instagram, sign up for her Patreon account. Trust me, she's a great follow. The Patreon account is more than worth it. Sign up for it. Buy the book. I'll be back soon with part 4. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you again soon.